Part 79. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 787. Two foreign friends, both male and female, got out of the pickup truck. One is tall and one is short, one has short hair. When the two got out of the car, they raised their hands and cooperated obediently, shouting the name of Chairman Yilin. Yo! An acquaintance of the president? The person in charge of the sentry post was a team leader under the patrol team that Su Xiong was in charge of. When he heard the two foreign friends calling Yilin by his first name, he scratched his head and reported the matter to Su Xiong. Su Xiong's level in the guild is not too low, and he has the right to report directly to the president. This matter soon reached Yilin's ears. "I gonna go see." Yilin was fishing in the station. When he heard about this, he was slightly startled, but in an instant he guessed who the visitor was. A second later, Yilin arrived at the scene at high speed. No one was surprised by the president's ability to appear and disappear, they were all used to it. Isn't it just teleportation and teleportation? As the leader of the world's #1 guild, is it strange that he has such a skill? Isn't this perfectly normal? It is indeed you. Yilin landed, 3 meters away from the two of them. She looked at Griffin and Cerberus who had come from afar. She quickly looked at each other and speculated on the purpose of the two coming here after traveling thousands of miles. The two sisters, Griffin and Cerberus, still have the same androgynous style. Cerberus looks like a man, but is actually a woman. Griffin looks, also like a man, but is also a woman. Cerberus was once equipped with parts of the artificial magic eye. Before UK Town and Yilin entered the singularity, in order to prevent the activation of the Honkai magic behind Griffin, Cerberus directly the artificial magic eye was dug out, and now it is still lying in Yilin's storage space, with no time to study it. Therefore, Cerberus still wears the eye patch on one eye. The difference from before is that now that eye is really blind and he has become a one-eyed dragon. The three of them looked at each other speechlessly. The team leader who reported the situation noticed that something was wrong with the atmosphere, so he wisely drove the other members away. Can other people read the president's affairs? A minute later, all the people around Yilin, Cerberus, and Griffin were cleared. Cerberus was silent for a moment, then knelt down on one knee in front of Yilin. "Master." "Oh," Yilin chuckled, but didn't stop her. Griffin gritted his teeth and stood firm with his back and chest straightened, until Cerberus glared at her, and Griffin knelt down on one knee unwillingly. They used this to express their surrender. Yilin was satisfied. "It seems you haven't forgotten what I said before I left." At the end of UK Town, Yilin rescued the two sisters in the clock tower. Before they were dragged into the singularity by the rotten heavens lock, Yilin said to them, "Your lives belong to me." Yilin used the palm of his hand to lift the two of them up. Before Cerberus and Griffin could speak, Yilin used telekinesis to detect them. After the battle damaged the butt of the pickup truck, it was filled with books. Rare magician's books. What Yilin didn't expect was that they actually drove all the way from Europe to here with a car full of books. Looking at the craters on the pickup truck, Yilin could imagine the hardships and dangers the two of them had experienced along the way. Yilin rubbed her palms together excitedly. He had previously expressed his displeasure over the fact that all the books in the clock tower had not been emptied out. Now, he is comfortable. Back, back, back. Yilin opened a portal. Griffin squeezed the steering wheel nervously, stepped on the accelerator, and fell backwards with a roar. "It's your sister. She's driving forward." "Damn it, it's a female driver. I thought he was a man when he looked so flat." On the other side of the portal, on the outskirts of Hating City and in the courtyard of the Grand Engineer Tower connected by the portal, someone was directing Griffin to reverse the car. But upon closer inspection, it turned out that the pickup truck was driving forward. Another look revealed that there was a female driver in the driver's seat, so the member responsible for the command on the other side became more careful and stayed away. You drove this whole way? Almost, yes, Cerberus nodded, with an indescribable tiredness on his face. Upon hearing this, Yulin simply slapped the little pickup truck into the portal. When the pickup truck finally passed through the portal and arrived at the yard, Yulin carefully checked the books behind the carriage. This batch of magic classics, roughly counting thousands of them, filled the trunk. Moreover, each magic book is extremely well preserved. There are no signs of damage or infiltration on it. It can be said that it is a perfect door-to-door delivery and can be given a 5-star rating. Yulin was satisfied with this and showed good looks to Griffin and Cerberus. The arrival of Griffin and Cerberus did not alarm many people. It's not surprising that the president's friends come from all over the world. No one asked any more questions. Oda Mai leaned in the distance and observed secretly for a moment. She felt that the two women did not seem to pose a threat, so she left quietly. While Yulin ordered people to move the books to the teleportation room, preparing to send them to the Snow Mountain station in one go, he asked about what happened in the Tower of War server after that day. Of course, Yulin had already learned about the turmoil in the foreign server with the help of Li Kai's intelligence network. But Griffin and Cerberus were native Europeans, and they may have mastered many details that were overlooked in the intelligence. Regarding what happened after that day, Cerberus had already prepared a draft and talked about it. After that day, news of the death of Miriam Artoria x Pendragon, president of the Knights Alliance, the #1 guild in the Tower of War and the second in the world, spread throughout Europe in a short period of time. Everyone was shocked by the news. In addition, Hongfa, Bor, and other powerful people who once occupied a place in the circle next door passed away one after another, completely disrupting the structure of the neighborhood next door. Because of the death of the president, guilds such as the Knights Alliance and the Red-Haired Society fell apart one after another. Not to mention the Red-Haired Club, there are 12 Knights of the Round Table in the Knights Alliance alone, and there are also 3,000 senior knights under their command. Overnight, people were poached and killed by vendettas. This Knights Guild, which once ranked high on the ranking list, is in turmoil. But the 12 knights, who have always been prosperous and like to fight in teams, are missing and their whereabouts are unknown. Europe was plunged into chaos. When the other guilds took a look, they probably thought that heroes emerged from troubled times, and began a war of separatist regimes that lasted for more than a month, with the heroes vying for hegemony. It can be said that there has been a bloody reshuffle within the entire Tower of War. Even if Yulin was not present at the chaos, she could still smell some clues from the changes in the World Guild rankings. No guild can firmly rank in the top 10. Every time it is refreshed, the guild rankings will undergo a complete change, which is outrageous. Is the Tower of War server starting to be in chaos? Yulin speculated that Miriam must be secretly driving the chaos in the next area. Thinking of the female knight who upheld the character of a knight in her memory and turned into the mastermind behind the scenes overnight, Yulin still can't accept it and feels secretly uncomfortable. What happened to her that made her pluck out her hair and become what she is now? Yulin sighed inwardly, but could not tell anything on the surface. He asked questions one after another, and Cerberus told him everything he knew. Finally, Yulin asked about the changes in the magician circle. The clock tower is gone. Speaking of the clock tower, Cerberus's calm expression finally showed significant fluctuations. She lowered her head, bit her lower lip, and after taking a deep breath to calm down, she was finally able to continue the conversation. She seemed to remember something, and an emotion called fear emerged in her only remaining eye. 4 monarchs died in UK town. After Griffin and I returned to the clock tower, we immediately some precious books were smuggled out of the clock tower. At that time, due to the news of the death of the 4 monarchs, the clock tower was in chaos, and no one had time to notice our departure. Griffin and I stole a truck from London, hid the books and supplies, and drove out of the clock tower. That night, A black light destroyed the clock tower. Hearing this, Yilin was silent. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 788. Finally, the day of the scheduled lecture arrived. The apostles who spent a mere 100 DP to buy tickets gathered from all over the world and gathered in Hating City again. In fact, many people have seen the grand and solemn architectural style of the great engineer tower before this. A large number of them were apostles who were unsuccessful in job fairs and subsequently entered other guilds. But this time, they were still immersed in the comfortable and peaceful atmosphere here, and they couldn't extricate themselves for a long time. Hating City, where the Apocalypse Guild is based, can be said to be the city with the most magical atmosphere after the version update and the drastic changes in the world. The great engineer's tower shone brightly. High walls, strict and orderly. Buildings in the city were demolished and rebuilt, with streets extending in all directions and high-rise buildings rising one after another. The passenger track in the air circles around the Grand Engineer Tower, crisscrossing and circling like a satellite cruise track, which is extremely spectacular. There are many strange high-rise buildings that clearly look like other worlds. The surfaces of the high-rise buildings are engraved with strange textures and dotted around the city. Walking in Hating City is like walking in a trial scene, which makes you forget to leave. This is the real Magic City. In fact, the real part of the residence is only the outer circle of the Great Engineer Tower. Almost all other buildings were created by the Civil Engineering Department of the Apocalypse Guild. Ningyu and Xingfei, two part-time civil engineering masters, as well as former temporary demolition team members Oda Mai and Miriam, played a major role. Among them, Ningyu worked extremely hard. He had to run back and forth between two stations, manage a bar, and be responsible for engineering construction. He lost a lot of weight. Compared with this place, what is the Flame Mountain station in the capital that Ulixin is proud of? After the completion of the Flame Mountain, many people published photos of the Flame Mountain on previous websites. Even with a filter, it looks like a fire on the stove from a distance, which is not pleasant no matter how you look at it. These photos attracted countless loyal fans of Apocalypse Guild to attack. The so-called harm comes from comparison. If you don't compare, you won't be able to tell the difference. They are both stationed in the same place, but this comparison shows that the gap is ridiculously large. Some people secretly sighed that the Liang army wanted to challenge the Apocalypse Guild, but there was a huge difference in realm and structure between the two. Ulixin's pattern is obviously smaller, not just a little bit smaller. Actually, Yilin has always been kind to dissuade her members from always going to the forum to cause trouble. But my own members are obedient, but other fans are not. Yilin felt helpless about the enthusiasm of Tiankai Guild fans. Now, Yilin sat alone on the top of the Great Engineer Tower, blowing the autumn wind, feeling the cool autumn air, and slowly closed a magic book inlaid with gold edges. This is a textbook on fire magic. The title of the book is The Complete Compilation of Fire Magic from Beginner to Burial. Sounds pretty down to earth, right? This book is said to be written by a famous chemistry professor at a European university. Yilin put away the magic teaching materials and flicked his fingers in front of him. Circles of strange ripples swayed around Yilin's wrist. He is absorbing magic theory bit by bit, absorbing its essence, eliminating the dross in the subject of magic, and integrating it into his own free method. After returning from the Age of Gods, Yilin's attainments in freedom have reached a higher level. He seemed to understand more, but he seemed to understand nothing. On his attribute panel, there is still no free law entry. This shows that the three systems that Yilin is currently using, magic, crystal pattern technique, and magic are still distinct. He is still unable to completely break away from the three disciplines and create science and technology that is truly his own. It feels like it's almost done, but there's still a little, key thing missing. Yilin lowered his head and pondered. He originally wanted to leave the top of the great engineer tower, but he thought of some key points and sat still for an extra half hour. The much anticipated lecture has finally begun. Outside the city of Hating, there was a queue several kilometers long. Everyone who bought a ticket stood tall and confident, waiting to enter the venue. The person who bought the ticket is so arrogant. Many people came to watch the excitement. When they saw the lecture, it was so loud and powerful. They secretly regretted it and beat their chests. "Hey, brother, can you sell this ticket? I'll pay 500 DP. Some people who are rich take the initiative to let people in line act as scalpers. 500 DP? Do you want 1000 DP? Bought it? Readily." Then a strange scene appeared among the people queuing up. Some people don't want to be scalpers, but buyers pay too much. The people who were scalped laughed like crazy, looking like they had picked up millions. Of course, there is always an upper limit to the price of this ticket. After all, the content of this lecture will eventually be spread through various means. Therefore, no matter whether it is a scalper or a scalper, no matter how high the bid is, there is an upper limit, and it will not exceed the original price by too much. It's only 10 to 20 times. This lecture scene, the style is a bit strange. As the apostles entered one by one, when they walked to the door of the venue, they looked up and were stunned. I saw that the walls of this so-called lecture venue seemed to be made of fine steel. Under the sunlight, it looked like a dormant steel beast. And in the solid wall, there are still holes, which are more like cannon ports than windows. When every participant entered the venue, they looked up at the murderous steel venue and involuntarily had the illusion that they would be shot at any time. Isn't this just a fortress? Outside the fortress, there were several sneaky figures lingering. Humph, it's just an apocalypse, nothing more. An agile man with nimble movements was ready to take advantage of the chaos to climb over the wall and enter. It's not that he can't afford the 100 DP, it's just that he can't buy it. When the number of buyers reached 30,000, Likai cancelled the purchasing channels. Some people can't buy tickets and plan to sneak in secretly, hoping to prevent scalpers from making any money. But when he just stepped on the flexible steps, snake-like movement, he just climbed over the high wall. 1 kilometer away. On a certain sentry post. Wangabe, who had been paying attention to the movements around him, smiled slightly. Finally come to life. Wangabe activated his ability, and the tumors on his shoulders suddenly swelled as he breathed. Call out. The concentrated air cannon sniped through the crowd and accurately blew the stowaways dozens of meters away. This scene immediately suppressed the thoughts of many people who were about to move. Apocalypse Guild actually arranged for snipers. The forum is abuzz. Someone broadcast everything that happened in Hating City in real time to gain some popularity. Unexpectedly, the Apocalypse Guild had even anticipated the possibility of someone smuggling across the border, and arranged for snipers to guard the commanding heights. Unfortunately, it's not on my side. Griffin also stood on the commanding heights. She pursed her lips and was very unhappy. Too many grievances had happened during this period, and she had no time to vent. When Yilin arranged for her to be a sniper, she was so happy that she could finally vent her anger. After Wangabe took action, he suddenly suppressed all his thoughts. Those who didn't buy tickets and wanted to listen to the lecture up close had no choice but to go to scalpers to buy tickets. For a time, scalper fares rose again. The commotion outside the wall did not affect the progress of the ticket inspection. Likai had already arranged everything, and casually directed the medical team to carry away the stowaway who was covered in blood and blisters. The ticket check-in speed is also very fast. The so-called ticket is a special ordinary level card that no one can imitate, and you can tell the authenticity at a glance. The guests entered the venue in an orderly manner, and in less than an hour, 30,000 people filled the spacious venue. The remaining apostles who could not enter the venue could only squat outside Hating City, browsing the forum and watching the live broadcast of the event. The venue was crowded. It was densely packed with people. There were many Apocalypse Guild staff members walking through the venue, selling melon seeds, soda drinks, and other items. These sodas, melon seeds, and other items are clearly marked with prices ranging from 30-150 DP points. They are of high quality and low price. Many people have noticed that some of the staff of Apocalypse Guild are not apostles and can only trade with some cheap ordinary level props. The speaker seems to be late. But no one dared to urge them and simply observed the staff of Tiankai Guild. Hey, look, that beauty is so beautiful. Yes, yes, her skin is as good as snow, and her silver hair is as silky. Wait, although her upper body is wearing work clothes, she is actually barefoot. Hiss, this is too revealing of the dual fetishes of white hair and foot control, you bastard. Whose family is this from? I really want to join Tiankai Guild, oh. No one noticed that there were 3 relatively unfamiliar women lingering in the venue as staff members. Half an hour ago. They know that today is particularly fun, easy to talk to and persuade, and they want to come out. Gayajiamimi even used her special move, changing into 30 sets of sexy outfits, which finally annoyed Yiren so much that she agreed to let them serve as staff at the venue to help greet the guests. But before they come out, Yilin has an important precondition, otherwise she will never agree. This condition is: you have to dress like a human being. So, the 3 mother spirits put on uniforms and looked very much like 3 people. Although there were a lot of little things going on before the lecture started. Overall, the whole process was orderly and without too much confusion. From this, we can see the management capabilities of Tiankai Guild. Not every guild has the confidence to put 30,000 outsiders in its own territory and maintain strict discipline. Tiankai Guild is so awesome. Until noon. The warm sun is shining. The speaker is already an hour late. Some people are getting impatient. There started to be some noise in the venue. There were some guilds affiliated with hostile forces such as the Liang Army and Jinyi Pavilion, happily setting the pace in the crowd. What Apocalypse Guild doesn't treat other guilds as human beings, what Apocalypse Guild doesn't respect people, and so on. Right now. 12 o'clock sharp. A crack, silently, opened from directly above the venue. Yilin was wearing a dignified magician's robe, and little bits of light rained down. He just pretended to be cool in front of everyone, falling in the light and rain. Sorry, late. Yilin landed on the high platform, looking like a belated scholar. In an instant, all the noisy voices in the entire venue fell silent. The entire venue became silent due to Yilin's appearance. Everyone subconsciously did not dare to speak. Yilin nodded calmly, then, the small lecture begins. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 789. Actually, among the 30,000 people present, many people have had conflicts with the Apocalypse Guild. Whether in reality or in trials. But when Yilin appeared in such a low-key and luxurious way, whether there were those who had opinions, those who were arguing, or those who were having fun, everyone fell silent in an instant. The entire venue was silent. It was as if this man wearing a black magician's robe had a strange magical power about him. No matter how calm, kind, or soothing his expression is, he can still scare people into not daring to act rashly when they meet him. He is truly worthy of being the president of Tiankai Guild. That vicious man. After some people came back to their senses, they were shocked and frightened. Yilin looked around the entire audience with calm eyes. 30,000 people, a full 30,000 people. He stood on the 10-meter high platform, looking at the unfamiliar faces, and suddenly felt like there was a concert. Once upon a time, could he have thought that one day he would stand in this position, as a senior person, preaching and solving doubts for these people? Perhaps without the experience of the age of gods, this scene would not have occurred. Human beings are always used to showing their selfish side. When a person can do something truly selfless, he can be called a hero or a great man. But are you a hero or a great man? Yulin asked herself. This question did not bother him for long. Almost as soon as she asked the question, Yulin came up with the answer on her own. I'm not. I just know more than others, and understand more of the secrets and cruelties of the world. Ultimately, I do it for myself. Yulin raised her head, and after a brief sigh of relief, she began to speak in the dead silence. I think among the people here, some people hate this guild, some people don't understand this guild, and some people want to join this guild. But these are actually not important. What is important is that you are here today, and I am responsible for telling you some trivial experiences. What I care about today is whether these trivial experiences can slightly improve your strength afterwards. Maybe some people are thinking, what is my purpose in doing this? Is anyone really so kind? My answer is, no, but I have my purpose, and you don't need to know whether I will benefit from it in the end. It still depends on yourselves. Yulin's opening remarks directly touched everyone's heart. Yes. Some people are doubtful, and some come here with the mentality of being hesitant and unable to buy, suffer losses, or be fooled. Yulin's words made it clear and clear. In short, nothing matters, what matters is the strength itself. Some people in the crowd nodded secretly. Yulin is right. Yulin paid attention to the reaction of the 30,000 people, smiled slightly, and sat down on the high platform. I saw bands of light of different colors swaying from his wrists, and white tracks emerged high in the sky. In a blink of an eye, the light was outlined and formed into 3 human figures. This hand calmed many people again. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Yulin's skill, whether it is a deception or a skill, is not accomplished with the help of some kind of technology, but Yulin's ability itself. So many people who saw the clue obediently closed their mouths and listened. Yulin continued. People like us, at our core, are actually evolvers. Whether it's the mental side, the strength side, or the agility side, whether you get a skill during the trial or understand some kind of strengthening, you are actually using various methods to complete the strengthening again and again with the help of the tower. But don't forget that attributes are just a side standard. The essence of evolution lies in people. When listening to the follow-up content, there is a concept that you must first understand. What is a human being? Human power has limits. This limit limits humans themselves. When humans reach the limit in a certain field and can no longer make any progress, the limit that humans touch is called a lock. It is this lock that restricts human beings from stepping into the supernatural. Then the question is, how to unlock the lock that restricts human beings from continuing to evolve. Yulin is truly a spiritual person. The explanation is clear and organized, from the shallower to the deeper. He told 30,000 people bit by bit the existence of attribute locks and the key points of how 3 types of apostles could break through this layer of locks. Everyone who still had doubts at the beginning gradually became fascinated by Yulin's narration. None of them are rookies. Not a newbie either. In fact, Yulin's lecture was not aimed at how newbies could survive the trial. Rather, it is about how to reach the next level for veterans who are faced with the problem of lock-in, or who are already stuck in this bottleneck and no longer make any progress. They understood it after just a little listening. Dry stuff. Every word and sentence of Yulin is full of solid information, without any water. Some people didn't know how to break through the lock at all and had been deeply distressed. But when Yulin mentioned it, they vaguely found the direction. In the trial, veterans who are stuck in the bottleneck will generally not receive any enhancements in the bottleneck attribute. This is also the reason why in the past 10 years, there are countless people who have strengthened step by step and finally reached the bottleneck, but there are only a few people who can finally break through this heavy block and reach the extraordinary. One is that he was not able to get in, and the other was that he died in the trial before he could get in. For 2 whole hours, Yilin didn't pause. He combined pictures and text, and used simple little spells in mid-air to make his theory more clear at a glance. Gradually, many people secretly felt horrified by the president's knowledge. You said that if you are a spiritual apostle, it doesn't matter if you understand the spiritual breakthrough method, everyone can understand it. But you can even give some theoretical knowledge about the breakthrough methods on the strength side and agility side. What do you mean? Are you really cheating? Is the tower owned by your family? So clear? As Yilin's lecture progressed, some people began to feel that it was outrageous. This man seems to know too much about the mechanism of the entire apostolic circle. For 2 whole hours, from noon to afternoon, Yilin didn't stop for a moment, and her mouth was a little dry. Gayajimi, this wonderful spirit, rolled her eyes, and in front of 30,000 people, she wore a staff uniform, unbuttoned a button, floated to Yirin and handed out a cold soda. Rinkun, are you thirsty? Oh, thanks. Yilin took it. So Bai Xiao I couldn't stand it anymore, so she floated up and handed melon seeds. Master, please bite. Yilin. The 2 little mother spirits, who rarely appeared in physical form, began to engage in craziness in front of 30,000 people. This is an era of involution. Even the circle of mother spirits cannot escape this law. The content of Yilin's lecture and his words were broadcast live and spread wildly in various ways and posts on the Apostle Forum. After 2 hours of explanation, Yilin had finished speaking and was ready to leave. At this moment, someone in the crowd weakly raised his hand. Hello, Professor Yi, can I ask a question in private? Yilin was stunned. He did not set up a question and answer session at the beginning. He squinted at the person who asked the question, a young girl with a fragile appearance and average facial features. So he hesitated for a moment, tapped his fingers on his body, and a colorful strip of light spanned the air and extended to the young girl's feet. Come up. The girl stepped on the light belt doubtfully, and found that it could actually be stepped on. In front of everyone, she stepped on the light belt and walked onto the high platform. This move made many people widen their eyes. Damn it, the president of the Apocalypse Guild seems to know hundreds of millions of postures and tricks. Bai Xiaoi and Gaijiamimi were rolling on the high platform. When they saw a woman coming to their door, they didn't even dare to go down. They stared closely, for fear that their master would encounter unexpected events and temptations. Yilin casually placed a soundproof magic barrier around the area, and the 2 began to talk. The girl seemed unaccustomed to being stared at by 30,000 pairs of murderous eyes, so she stammered out her troubles. She is a spiritual person. But her actual combat ability is not strong, and her mental attributes are still far from the first level of mental lock. Her main skill is called Recovery Tai, which can release a link to connect the other party and slowly restore the injuries of both parties at the same time. Healing skills, Yilin nodded secretly. This type of skill is quite rare. Is there a guild? Yilin asked. The girl shook her head blankly, not understanding what the teacher meant by asking this question. Let Vice President Li contact you later. Yilin took the opportunity to recruit a wet nurse for the guild. The girl looked confused, and was sent off the platform by a pair of invisible hands gently holding her pink buttocks. When other people looked at it, they thought, oh my god, this lecture also includes private tutoring. 100 DP value is bleeding. Soon, more people raised their hands. In fact, this kind of behavior is suspected of exposing one's abilities. Even though many people had scruples, the knowledge Yilin displayed in these 2 hours was so profound that they almost forgot that this person was the president of the Apocalypse Guild, and might even be an enemy in the future. They didn't care about exposing their secrets, so they let the teacher guide them first. This sudden situation made Yilin's scalp numb, a total of 30,000 people. 30,000 people. This is no small number. Even if each person spends 5 minutes, it will take a full 104 days to resolve the battle. Who can bear it? Yilin dealt with about 20 people, and after recruiting a few good seedlings, he said, "If you want private guidance, please wait until you join Tiankai." Yilin fled in despair. In the end, the lecture took 5 hours and ended successfully. It's over, but it's not over either. In fact, originally, the link of private guidance existed. However, it is not open to the public, only internal staff. After a simple meal, Yilin asked Li Kai to be responsible for evacuating the crowd. She returned to the courtyard of the Great Engineer Tower and was surrounded by a group of members. Of course, their members are not afraid that the president will learn the secrets of their abilities. Originally, when they joined the guild, no, there was such an item on the form they filled out when they joined the guild. Naturally, they wanted to be as detailed as possible so that the knowledgeable Professor Yi could tailor a follow-up strengthening plan for themselves. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 790. Under the Tower of the Great Engineer. Next to the dog and the brave statue. In front of Li Kai, such a warm and harmonious scene was playing out. President Yilin, who was supposed to be aloof, was surrounded by countless shy girls who loved learning, and the atmosphere was harmonious, while a dog was thrown up high by Schwerer, dropped heavily, and finally flew away with a standard MO uppercut. Dogs and brave men. Li Kai felt inexplicably that the scene in front of him overlapped with the heroic figure on the statue. He could see that this great engineer tower, this station, and this statue, which condensed Yilin's hard work, contained Yilin's story. At first, Li Kai thought Yilin was confused. Even shortly after the lecture, Li Kai still thought so. It's just $3 million to buy the president's integrity, it's not worth it. But when Li Kai saw the harmonious atmosphere of the station, he changed his mind and felt that everything was worth it. When your eyes are no longer limited to the struggle between humans, you will understand what I want to do. The words Yilin said in a calm tone flashed through Li Kai's mind. He vaguely understood something. But it seems like he doesn't understand anything. The communication between Yilin and the members continued until night. He even did it himself, lighting a bonfire with barbecue on top in the camp, and dreaming back to the past. It was the first time for many people to taste Yilin's craftsmanship, and they were instantly conquered by the soul food, and their pupils turned into heart shapes. Yilin's area of expertise is actually the mental side. The key to breakthrough on the mental side lies in skills. There is actually only a thin line between skills and enhancements. Skills are abilities given by the tower, but strengthening is about integrating one's own understanding and turning it into one's own. It's like the tower gave the apostles a big fishing net. At first, the apostles only knew how to blindly use this net to catch fish. But over time, the apostles felt that the fish were not fat enough or big enough, so they learned to strengthen the fishing nets and add some steel nails. Finally caught the shark. Well, this is a breakthrough. The way to unlock the strength side and agility side is relatively mysterious. The focus is on strengthening the body, not on attribute points. Take sprinting as an example. Some people are very fast and can run under 5 seconds in the 100-meter dash. He felt the bottleneck, so he began to exercise his legs and other body muscles to improve his explosive power, then he ran into 4.5 seconds. But at this point, no matter how hard the apostles try, they can't go any further. This is the limit of human beings. So how to break through this layer of lock? Based on this example, Yilin proposed a simple idea. If the overall speed breakthrough can no longer make slight progress, then change the body shape, make the tip of the nose or a certain part of the front of the body a little longer, or make it a little fuller, then will the time to cross the line be shorter? Short. Although this way of improving performance is a bit outrageous, it is not a way to broaden your mind. Yulin only provided ideas, and they still had to find the final path by themselves. Many people suddenly realized. Listening to your words is like listening to your words. All in all, many people benefited greatly. Li Kai was not without gains. Yulin's casual words at the end of the lecture actually caused thousands of people to stand guard outside the high wall, and thousands of people wrote in blood asking to join Tiankai. In response to this, Li started to feel a lot of pain. He could only hold another small job fair on another day to expand the size of the guild. Of course, before making this decision, Li Kai reported to Yulin in advance. Yulin also agreed. Apocalypse Guild must always move forward and cannot stand still. In the eyes of many people, Yulin is like a dark cloud that leaves at the drop of a hat, leaving behind waves of thunder. His lecture and the aftermath left behind were all left to Li Kai to handle. This wave shocked Li Kai again. What shocked Li Kai the most was that shortly after the lecture, the microtransaction do not disturb function that he had been thinking about was actually launched. This small function was not launched earlier or later, but it came too late after Li Kai was shocked and couldn't stop. Li Kai seriously doubted whether there was some ulterior secret. Yulin returned to the Snow Mountain station. The days were leisurely again. He also took Griffin and Cerberus away. The two magicians from the clock tower finally accepted their fate. They fulfilled their promise seriously and stayed in the Snow Mountain station as housekeepers. Regarding Yulin's new arrival, the members of the Snow Mountain station gossiped for a few days at first, but then let it go. There are rumors that Oda Mai once put a knife on the president's neck and tortured him, but in the end no result was obtained. However, the two dashing magicians, dressed in serious black tuxedos, looked like butlers, serious black butlers. They were responsible for managing Yulin's daily life, and provided guidance and assistance while Yulin studied the truckload of magic books. Aden is right. For scholars, the most precious treasure is always knowledge. All things change, but knowledge remains forever. In the long river of time, countless treasures have disappeared, and only precious knowledge has been passed down for a long time. Yulin's magic skills have improved by leaps and bounds, progressing at a speed visible to the naked eye. After Yulin's two spirit-possessed weapons reached a level and the three mother spirits could materialize under the premise of continuously consuming Yulin's spiritual energy, the three of them bubbled up in the station from time to time. At first, the guild members were shocked that there were three more beauties with different styles in the station. However, when they accidentally learned that these three mother spirits were actually the little mother spirits under the president, the guild members, a tragic collective mandibular joint dislocation accident occurred. Later, Yulin was nicknamed Undead Knight among members privately. Time has quietly arrived in November. Yulin and Oda Mai teamed up again and entered a trial. There is no doubt about the result. They join forces and kill everyone in the trial. In an ordinary nightmare-level trial, Yulin and Mai Oda can crush everything with their strength as long as they are not too reckless. There is also an interesting thing to say. During this trial, I accidentally bumped into guild members who had associated with the Apocalypse Guild. The atmosphere was surprisingly harmonious. No one dared to ask for trouble by stumbling upon the two killer gods Yulin and Oda Mai during the trial. The five people united to overcome the difficulties together. As for other members' trials, due to the tacit understanding and fixed matching, the trial pass rate was as high as 99% for the first time. Only 2 Shenzhen died in the trial. In early November, Yulin personally held a grand mourning ceremony for the deceased. Yulin seems to enjoy giving speeches more and more. At the end of the eloquent condolences, Yulin said solemnly, "No one's life passes in vain. Those of us who survive will carry the wishes of the deceased and carry forward the burden. When everyone first heard the sentence, they just thought it was the end of an ordinary condolences. But many years later, they recalled the scene and finally understood what Yilin was referring to. Move forward with a heavy load. Yes, we will eventually bear the burden and move forward. After the condolence meeting, the atmosphere in the station soon became festive again. Because the wedding day of Suzayasu and Li Erpang is approaching. Although after Suzayasu's complete transformation, many people were jealous of Li Erpang's good life, but they still deserved blessings. Who made him the eldest young master Li Tang? If placed in the prosperous period of the Tang dynasty, he would still be a fat prince who was about to inherit the throne of emperor. Many people are worried about sending some congratulatory gifts on Li Su's marriage to appear generous without losing face. Epic. That is impossible. There are only a few in the entire guild. Yilin also had a headache about the gift. He even thought about giving away the storm and thunder messenger that no one could use in the warehouse. In any case, Li Erpang will definitely not be able to use it. He is so far away from being righteous that he will eventually have to fall back into his pocket. After going around and around, the item returned to its original owner, perfect. As November 11, 2122 approached, Yilin accidentally noticed that something was wrong with Molly. The assembly of Unit 0 is at the last minute and it is just about to start running. But when Molly arrived, she looked like she was absent-minded all day long. Yilin counted the dates of Molly's relatives on her fingers, it didn't seem to be the case. Could it be the girl's nostalgia? An impossible idea flashed through Yilin's mind, but she was not sure. In the end, Yilin thought about it and was too embarrassed to ask in person, so she could only find Emo Rendi, who was practicing boxing with Schwer in the Red Leaves in the late autumn district, and tapped from the side to understand the situation. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 791. I wonder if Yilin is unlucky. He just walked out of the portal and stepped into the maple forest. A strong wind swept the maple leaves towards Yilin. No, it's not a strong wind, it's a hurricane. Hummed. What's the situation? Yilin hurriedly used magic and crystal patterns to form circles of light patterns on the wrists of both hands. Free method 7 circles. In an instant, Yilin deployed 7 layers of defense in front of her. Call. Maple leaf shattered the 6 layers of defense walls in Yilin's 7-layered ring, blowing Yilin's hair back. Everything ceases. Yilin turned back numbly and looked at the maple forest behind her. A semicircular pit was blown out by the hurricane, and she remained silent. Are you practicing boxing or demolishing towers on high ground? An uninformed person might mistakenly think that there is a mole in the station. Yilin touched her cheek. A blood-stained maple leaf floated in the air in an S shape and landed in Yilin's palm. The maple leaf was soft and looked ordinary. But it broke through the 7 rings that Yilin had laid in a hurry, and cut a scar on Yilin's face. While Yilin was staring at the maple leaf in her palm, Schwer, who was boxing deep in the maple leaf forest, knocked Yilin down with a leap. Schwer happily rode on Yilin and called her daddy. Yilin endured the severe pain that felt like a broken bone in his body. He still didn't think that this daughter who suddenly appeared had his bloodline. This is not the same species at all. Sorry, that was a bit much. Amo Rendi stepped on the fallen leaves and walked towards Yilin closely behind Schwer, with an apology on his face. I almost beat you to death. Yilin. He snapped his fingers speechlessly and spent a lot of DP to restore the maple leaf forest, which was half destroyed by the power of this punch. Yilin took a deep look at Emo Rendi, and then quickly asked about Molly Yu reasons for unhappiness. Emo Rendi was stunned. The gray-haired man looked even older in an instant. His expression changed again and again, and after more than 10 seconds, he showed sadness. Is it that time again? What's the meaning? Haha. Emo Rendi turned his face, buried the sadness in his eyes, and put on a faint smile. "You kid, I don't know how you choose the day, but do you know that it is November 11th every year? What day is it?" "Singles Day," Yulin asked tentatively. Amorendi clenched his fist, but quickly released it, shaking his head and denying, "It's the death anniversary of Mingmeng's parents. Back then, Mingmeng's parents died in the night of falling stars." "What? Why don't you even know about me?" Yulin's mouth opened wide. He had known Molly for 2 lifetimes, but he didn't know about this. Having said that, in another time and space, Molly never told Yulin about her parents. Yulin even never took the initiative to ask about Molly's parents' past because of Molly's excessively normal behavior. Thinking of this, Yulin secretly felt guilty and distressed. When Amorendi heard Yulin's subconscious reaction, he looked at Yulin with strange eyes and asked, "Ouch. Don't you know it's normal? Why do I have to let you know? This is so hurtful." But when Yulin thought about it carefully, it seemed to make sense, and Yulin couldn't refute it. He felt like he had done something stupid. At this moment, he wished that Li Kai could postpone the big day, etc. Yulin remembered. In another time and space, every day on this day, Molly seemed to find a way to get Yulin to bring her a bouquet of delicate and fresh wild chrysanthemums and put them in a vase in the room while she was scavenging in the wilderness. Yulin used to think. Amorendi seemed to see through Yulin's thoughts. He smiled and said, "You don't have to feel guilty. Mengmeng actually doesn't care about such details. She might just want to secretly return to her ancestral home to pay homage to her parents, but she doesn't know how to tell you. That's it." Yulin wondered what was wrong with such a small and reasonable request. "Have you forgotten that your kid is not welcome in the capital now?" Amorendi kindly reminded. "What's the matter? Anyone who dares to cause trouble will be beaten back." Yulin waved his hands indifferently. With his current strength, among normal humans, he really had no one to fear except the night of the apocalypse. After understanding the reason for Molly's depression, Yulin secretly made a plan. Yulin secretly prepared for 10 days. Li Su's marriage went ahead as scheduled. The location is in the Tower of the Great Engineer. Before this day, the two families had made full preparations, decorated with lanterns and colorful makeup, and felt festive. No matter who comes, even a blind person can see that someone in Hating City is happy. The parents of the two families had been looking forward to this day for an unknown amount of time. Half a month before the wedding, they started to giggle, and Li Kai's eyes widened with laughter. The two families were extravagant and courteous. The Li family gave them enough gifts, including a treasured epic prop and an epic weapon. Speaking of which, the epic prop seemed to be tailor-made for Suzayasu. It was a blood-red 2-meter sledgehammer, which was very festive and suitable for the occasion. On the wedding day, Suzayasu decided to place the epic sledgehammer in the wedding hall to add to the atmosphere. The Su family also returned 500,000 DP as a dowry, which was Suja's entire wealth. The Su family's only daughter got married, so she couldn't lose her reputation. At this wedding banquet, Li Kai did not call anyone from other guilds. Within the guild alone, there were already thousands of people celebrating. If other guilds were included, it would be chaos. Certainly. This matter cannot be concealed, and many guild presidents who maintain seemingly friendly relations with Tiankai Guild have quietly sent congratulatory gifts. It's nothing more than some props, items, supplies, etc., a simple stack of rare cards wrapped in a red envelope, which is more practical than anything else. Gift giving among apostles is so plain and boring. Yulin suffered from a headache for half a month, and finally had no choice but to follow the crowd. He found more than 50 unused rare level props in the warehouse and carefully strung them into a colorful ball, which also included Yulin's gifts. A little magic trick to add to the fun, I told Li Ziyuki to deliver it to Hating City on time on the wedding day. Li Ziyuki naturally agreed, but when he agreed, He also noticed something was wrong. "Wait a minute, President, don't you plan to go?" Yulin shook his head and didn't explain much about his itinerary. He just smiled and explained, "There happens to be an emergency. Vice President Li should be able to understand." He opened the transmission channel between the two stations, waved his arms happily, and watched each guild member parachute into Hating City. When it was Oda Mai's turn, she touched the sword at her waist back and forth, looking at Yulin suspiciously, without saying a word, and her silence was better than her voice. Yulin saw through Xiao Wu's thoughts at a glance, raised 3 fingers and swore, "There is a god 3 feet above my head. I will never kill anyone. I guarantee it with my personality." Finally, Oda Mai believed it, so she rarely went to Hating City to attend the wedding banquet and join in the fun. Even Cerberus and Griffin were rushed to Hating City to help organize the wedding banquet. Housekeeper, don't they just do this kind of trivial things?" Yulin didn't feel guilty at all about this. After sending everyone away one by one, Yulin secretly came to the number 0 machine assembly line workshop in the Longdong district. At this moment, there was no one in the assembly line workshop, and all the fully automatic robotic arms were on strike. Molly was alone, sitting in the studio, holding her chin in a daze. Until Yulin ignored the glass of the studio, walked in and walked behind her, she didn't notice it and still maintained a dazed posture. Yulin coughed twice and placed the carefully prepared fresh chrysanthemum wreath on the table with a clang. Molly had no reaction to Yulin's cough, but was startled by the wreath that suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. "You are seeking death. Why are you sending a wreath to me when you have nothing to do?" Molly was naturally in a bad mood. She subconsciously thought that Yulin's wreath was given to her, so she unceremoniously took the opportunity to vent her anger, pointing at Yulin's nose and scolding him. "Do you remember what day it is today?" Yulin was not angry and asked with a smile. "Nonsense, isn't it just Sister Sue and Fatty's wedding? How can I forget it with my memory? I'm not feeling well. I asked for leave. I don't want to go." Molly moved her face away to prevent Yulin from seeing her expression. Yulin stretched out a finger, carefully wiped the corners of Molly's eyes, and then said softly, "Your grandfather and I have agreed to go back to the capital today." "What?" Molly turned her head sharply, stunned. "Go back to the Mo family's ancestral home." When Molly heard this, she wiped the floor, and her tears couldn't hold back anymore and fell down. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 792. Molly was breached. The strong look she had managed to pretend could no longer hold up. In fact, every year on this day, while others were lamenting, she would finish her busy research work, return to her ancestral home, clean the yard, buy a bouquet of chrysanthemums, and put them in a vase in front of the black and white photos of her parents. But this year, she and her grandfather were displaced and came here. Although Molly has long regarded this place as her new home, humans are easily sentimental creatures, and Molly is a normal woman, so she cannot avoid emotional fluctuations. Therefore, Yulin made Molly cry like this. Crying profusely. Yulin did not hesitate and decided to accompany Molly back to the capital. To him, the capital was not a dragon's nest or a tiger's den. Don't cry. Look, your face is wrinkled from crying. You look so ugly when you cry. Yulin didn't have much experience with this, so he finally thought of some words to comfort Molly. In the end, Yulin succeeded. Molly couldn't cry anymore and happily kicked Yulin in the face. During Yulin's trip to the capital, he didn't plan to do anything spectacular, nor did he plan to trouble others. As the forum said, pattern. Yulin's situation is now bigger, and it is no longer limited to battles between humans. Yilin didn't bother to pay attention to the several ancient families entrenched in the capital. Yilin took Shwe'er, Goze, Amorendi, and Molly, 4 of them and 1 dog, ready to set off for the capital. Now Yilin has mastered the essence of circle drawing taught by the Supreme Master. It only takes an instant to return to the capital from the snowy mountains of the Himalayas in the south. He no longer needs to teleport several times in the middle like he used to do by simply using crystal patterns to teleport. Before setting off, Yilin thought about it and did a small thing. He posted a post on the forum openly. I, the president of Apocalypse Guild, Yilin, went to the capital to do some serious business, please don't disturb me. Yilin's intention was actually to be friendly. The meaning of the post was that he was going to the capital for business, not to poach people from the special forces, nor to seek revenge from the ancient imperial family. He was just passing by, so don't think too much about it. But others don't think so. Hummed. Isn't the Apocalypse Guild having a wedding party? Why did your dignified president suddenly land in the capital to fight in the jungle without attending the wedding banquet of your own guild? Do you dare to say that you are not here to cause trouble? Who believes it? Then, almost within 10 minutes after Yilin posted, the entire capital circle was alarmed. The few imperial families who were unhappy with the Apocalypse Guild immediately recalled all the elites wandering around the capital to the base camp and set up a huddled iron barrel formation to strengthen defense. Who doesn't know now that the president of the Apocalypse Guild has learned the ability to teleport and comes and goes without a trace? Look at Uligzin, he has been living a painful life surrounded by more than a dozen tough men for several months and still cannot sleep peacefully. It was not until he established a station a few days ago that he was finally able to sleep peacefully. This ability to come and go freely was learned by that person, which can be called a disaster in the apostolic world. A magnitude 18 earthquake occurred in the capital circle. Yilin couldn't care so much. Yilin skillfully put on the mage's hanging ring and drew a circle in front of her. On the other side of the teleportation circle, the sun is shining brightly and the birds are singing and the flowers are fragrant. Why is there no one on the road? 4 people and 1 dog were on the streets of the capital in an instant. Yilin was surprised to find that there was no one on the street. Not to mention a human, not even a dog. Wang Tiandi had originally run away from the zoo. It was rare for him to return home in fine clothes, but he found that there was not even a dog on the road. He drooped his ears in an instant, and the whole dog became bad. There was a slight deviation in Yilin's positioning. After all, the distance between the capital and the snow-capped mountains was too far, so it was not surprising that there was an error in the positioning. My home is over there. After half a year, she finally returned to the capital. Molly was very excited. Before Yilin could speak, she found her direction and trotted all the way to the Mo family's ancestral home. Oh, let's race. Shwe rarely comes out. She also seemed very happy, dragging the dog's tail and running rampant. Accidentally, Shwe even pushed the dog and knocked away an abandoned Porsche lying on the roadside, causing the dog to grin in pain. Yilin and Amorendi quickly followed up, falling a few steps behind. Amorendi opened and closed his eyes and said softly, "It seems that someone is spying on me." "They were spying on us," Yilin smiled and shook her head, "it's normal. I posted the post in a low-key manner, and they should have some reaction. Now it seems that the post I posted worked, and they didn't come to cause trouble in a big way. Consider them smart." Yilin and Amorendi both noticed it. Indeed, among the high-rise buildings and in the corners of the buildings, lurkers from different forces were holding tactical binoculars to spy on Yilin. There was no one on the street. Yilin had 4 people and 1 dog. They were both walking the dog and crashing into the car. There was so much movement that it was not difficult to spot them. It's this way of walking the dog that's a little bit unique. A few streets away, we arrived in no time. Because almost everyone was hiding at home, there was no one on the road, and there were only a few people crossing the road without any pressure. The Mo family's ancestral home is a courtyard located in a busy city, with several pine trees planted beside the door. Around the corner, Yulin, who had been letting go of his senses and examining everything around him, suddenly frowned and a wave of waves rippled around his body. He strangely crossed the distance of 20 steps and came to Molly. "I'll go ahead." Yulin smiled and moved his hands. The body near the Mo family's ancestral home was thrown into the corner by Yulin at an angle that Molly could not see. When Molly turned the corner, there was nothing unusual except for a few pools of dried blood left on the road. Yulin maintained a smile on the surface, but she was a little angry in her heart. Without saying a word, he posted another post on the forum, naming and criticizing the Zhu family, the Ying family, the Yu family, and the Zhao family. Please pay attention to street hygiene. You don't even dispose of the corpses. Are you being honest? Grass. Yuligzin, who was hiding in the Flame Mountain in the suburbs, not daring to move, was scrolling through the posts anxiously, and he burst into flames in an instant. He opened his mouth and a burst of flame set the room on fire. This sudden fire even alerted the emergency fire brigade within the Liang army, who came to put out the fire. Church. Not only Yu Ligzin, but also Zhao Taiqian and Zhu Mingzi, who were observing secretly, were very angry. Finally they found it. This damn Apocalypse Guild president, the brat they kicked out of the capital in the past, is not here to do business today. He is clearly here to slap him in the face. Do you care whether the streets in my capital are dirty or messy? Are you from the Urban Management Department or from the Health Bureau under the 6th Division? Yulin said this casually. Let the forum be as festive as a holiday. Many of the melon eaters burst out laughing. They all responded to Yulin's post. Are you honest? This is outrageous. This shouldn't be the case. Urban management speech, please pay attention to street hygiene. Urban management patrol. The capital area has become smaller. Pattern. Pattern. On how adding a book title to every sentence can improve your style. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 793. The door of the Mo family's ancestral house is an ordinary old wooden door with a bolt. In the past, Mo's house was never protected against theft, and there was no need to do so. Yulin moved her fingers and the door opened. The large wooden door covered with moss was closed again. Yulin waved his hand and placed a soundproof barrier around Mo's house. After completing the preparations, Yulin let go and walked into the hall of Mo's house. The hall was filled with domestic garbage, and there were several apostles in rags lying around, drunkenly slumped on the floor. Around them, there were also empty wine bottles. The house smelled of alcohol and was in a mess. Call. Yulin took a long breath, and his eyes fell on the conspicuous morning hall in the corner of the hall. A black and white photo of Molly's parents lay aside, gathering dust. Yulin stretched out her hand and saw that the photo glass had long been broken, but she could still vaguely make out the appearance of Molly's parents when they were young. Dad. Schwerer was rarely well behaved, so she gently tugged on the corner of Yulin's clothes. Unexpectedly, she tore the corner of Yulin's clothes off. Schwerer has an animal-like sense of smell, otherwise it would be impossible to get along with dogs. At this moment, Schwerer noticed that her father seemed a little angry in his silence. Gozi understands the official's thoughts better. It was already silently clenching its claws and fists, stretching its legs and twisting its waist, preparing for activities. At this time, the sound of the dog loosening its joints woke up the drunken apostles in the room. Hiccup, who is so brave? Dare to intrude into our not lonely in heaven territory. Brother Tiantang hasn't finished speaking yet. Yulin, who was silent, flicked his right arm casually. Boom. Crack boom. Brother Tiantang's entire figure was hit by a truck and hit the wall. His brain was shattered and his bones were shattered, leaving a pool of human-shaped blood. Yulin raised his head and smiled, "Kill them all." Woof. With a crazy grin on the dog's face, he rushed towards the drunken paradise where he was not lonely. 1 minute. It only took Gozi a minute to send his brothers who were not lonely in heaven to heaven, where their families could be reunited and healthy. It's okay not to mention the process. A little bloody. This group of guys who call themselves heaven is not lonely, occupy the unpopular Mo's house as their own territory. In fact, this is nothing. This kind of thing is very common in every city and every corner of the world. After the world changes, houses are no longer valuable, so you can live wherever you want. Too many people disappeared in this disaster. Dad, I'm hungry. Shweta looked at the blood all over the ground, her hair suddenly turned white, and her eyes suddenly turned red and glowed red. She sipped her white fingers, and crystal clear and sticky saliva flowed from the corners of her mouth. She seemed to be extremely hungry. Yulin was very familiar with Shweta's reaction when she was greedy, but he felt puzzled. Didn't I feed you before going out? Why are you hungry again? Hungry. Shweta walked towards the corpses on the ground in a daze. The blood looked very fresh. Be good, don't eat garbage. Dad will take you to eat something delicious when you go home. Yulin picked up Shweta by her collar and tried to dissuade her. All right. Although Shweta didn't know why she didn't want to, she was obedient. In order to eat her father's soul food, she finally suppressed the impulse from her bloodline, and her hair color and eye color returned to normal. Yulin snapped her fingers and summoned the 3 mother spirits. Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxia were quite dignified, and Gaijiamaimi wore a white apron with her back bare, a classic look that will be passed down forever. Gaijiamaimi lowered her head delicately, her face flushed like a cloud. Rinkun, you finally think of Xiaomei. Pooh. Bai Xiaoi spat disdainfully at Xiaomei, who was dressed strangely. Yulin nodded and clapped his hands. There are 8 minutes left. Everyone, get moving. Get moving and get this place clean. Gaijiamaimi looked around. The corpses everywhere did not make her feel the slightest discomfort. Instead, she felt like she had returned to her own home. But she didn't have time to savor the fragrance of blood and killing. When she heard Yulin's words, she was angry and funny at the same time. Junlin, it's rare for Xiaomei to materialize, so you want us to help with hygiene. Yulin looked at Xiaomei strangely, thinking there was something weird about her, and asked, what else? What else do you want to do? Don't you think this place is very dirty and annoying? Bai Xiaoi. Nai Hongxiu. Gaijiamaimi. Gozi covered his eyes in despair. He really deserves to be a shit shovel officer. There's a reason why he's single. Perhaps, this is the unique talent of the shit shovel officer. It thought to itself, if these 3 people were dogs, ahem. Woohoo, what's the use of this dog beating stick? The ancestral home of the Mo family is either big or small. Near the downtown area of the old city, it was just over 200 square meters excluding the yard. It's no wonder that this group of people, not lonely in paradise, have become a den of thieves who get drunk every day to escape reality. Yulin made a big circle on the floor. With a snap, more than 20 garbage corpses were dumped into a corner of the capital in an instant. There is an ancient well in the yard. The edge of the well mouth is smooth and smooth. It has been polished by wind and rain, giving it a sense of age. Yulin waved, and the well water was turned into a lump by the invisible force, quickly washing the blood on the floor and walls. A splash of blood flowed into the teleportation circle created by Yulin. If the Supreme Mage had a spirit in heaven and saw Yulin using the spells he taught in such a place, he would probably be so angry that he would snap his fingers like crazy. Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxia put on maid uniforms unwillingly, holding up mops to wipe away the remaining water stains on the floor. By the way, Gyakomi's spirit level has been upgraded to level A. In addition to having more functions in the evil thought space, she also comes with a very practical skill. Fantasy arms. She can dress others in suitable combat clothing for different occasions based on her imagination, and depending on the type of clothing, it can also have certain defensive capabilities. The dog was tearfully cleaning up the mess in the house. He couldn't understand that his good fighting dog was now reduced to doing housework. You don't regard dogs as dogs. Emperor Wang Tian had many opinions in his heart, but he didn't dare to mention them. With Yilin's efforts, Yilin dumped all the garbage in the house, and Nyoda's Mo house took on a brand new look. This kind of efficiency would have been unimaginable in the past. But the strength of their current group of people is really overkill when used for sanitation. With such efficiency, it is not surprising. After cleaning, Yilin looked at the time. It was exactly 9 minutes. He possessed himself and picked up the black and white photos of Molly's parents from the ground. Several light patterns appeared on his right wrist and activated repair magic. After a while, the broken glass was repaired and placed neatly on the table. Hey, who says a broken mirror can't be reunited? Yilin is very satisfied with her craftsmanship. At last, place the chrysanthemum wreath prepared in advance. Perfect. At the agreed 10 minutes, Yilin opened the door with a smile, as if this was his home, and said to Molly, who was waiting outside the door, "Welcome. This is my home, okay?" Molly glared at Yilin and complained, but she didn't complain much and hurriedly entered. She was stunned as soon as she entered the door. Good, 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 so clean. The wooden floor porphyrin reflects the sunlight porphyrinically, which is a bit dazzling. On the table, the photos of parents smiling brightly, as if welcoming the return of their precious daughter. Mo Rendi followed Molly and secretly gave Yilin a thumbs up. Although he is old, disabled, and useless, he is still invincible after all. He can easily kill a dog with one punch. Even if Yilin has arranged a soundproof barrier in advance and even cleaned it, there is still a faint smell of blood in the house. Can't be hidden from anyone's nose. Through brainstorming, Mo Rendi can roughly guess what happened inside. His good granddaughter, just stay innocent all your life. In short, everything was ordinary. Molly burned a stick of incense for her parents and silently mourned them. No words, no tears, all my thoughts are hidden in my heart. Yilin looked at Molly's slightly lonely back, and suddenly felt that there seemed to be some strange aura lingering around Molly. He stepped forward curiously, reached out a meter behind Molly, and dialed a few times. After a while, Yilin looked at her empty palms in surprise. This is missing. Ah, this. When can human eyes see such ethereal emotions? This is unscientific. Yilin is very strange. In the Age of Gods, although he activated the powerful missing magic to summon Aten, the Supreme Mage, and others to that place, he could only do so with the help of the power of the Holy Grail. As the Supreme Mage said, can Yilin really activate such an outrageous spell on her own? The Supreme Mage would not believe it even to death. This high-end spell can be called a spell exclusively used by gods, and even he doesn't understand it. But Yilin was released. It's quite authentic. But now, when Molly stood in front of the photos of her parents, her thoughts and longings surging, Yilin clearly felt that there was a vague and strange energy surrounding Molly. Molly closed her eyes. I feel a little strange. There was a dark wind behind me, and I didn't know what was going on. But she didn't open her eyes and continued to mourn her dead parents. Yilin silently fished in the air behind Molly for a while, and the strange feeling disappeared. He turned over and over again without understanding what was going on, so he had to give up in the end. All in all, this trip to the capital was uneventful and uneventful. Before Molly left, she took away her parents' photos. When Yilin and his party returned to Hating City in the evening, they happened to catch the climax of the wedding banquet. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 794. Both Li and Su's families are quite traditional. During this wedding, both families had done enough etiquette. What about giving betrothal gifts, bringing brides in sedan chairs, and hiding shoes? It's been a whole day of trouble. Now comes the much-loved stage of serving tea and paying homage to the church. Thousands of people gathered to watch the newlyweds. I saw Li Erpang dressed like a fat man, the groom's clothes were tight, and he had a small red flower on his chest, with the word groom written under the red flower. Su Zhiasu wore a red wedding dress with a small size and a red hijab on her head, which formed a sharp contrast with Li Erpang's figure. After solving Molly's troubles, Yilin finally arrived at the scene. He blended into the crowd silently and approached quietly. He passed by the crowd and overheard someone in the crowd muttering in a low voice. Our country once had a criminal law, our country once had a complete set of criminal laws, fat brother, you are really punishing, oh I wish you, legal happiness. Yilin looked down and saw that it was Xing Fei, the director of the Department of Civil Engineering. It seems that he still subconsciously retained his past professional habits. While blessing the two newcomers, he did not forget to think about what kind of laws Li Erpang had violated, how many years of delicious prison food he should have to spend, etc. On the wedding stage that was temporarily built by Xing Fei's alchemy skills and still had traces of alchemy on the surface, Li Erpang was in high spirits and his face was red. He hemmed and hawed, holding up a microphone and speaking loudly to the crowd. I Hiccup was once just like you, a single person who couldn't live without his right hand. But I got married today. Once upon a time, I cried silently during countless sleepless nights. In this relationship, I felt like I was on a pirate ship. Hearing this, Su Zhiasu, who was wearing a red hijab, clenched her fist silently, wondering whether to punch Li Erpang. At this time, Yilin had already walked to the front of the crowd. He came to Li Chang'e, Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, Su Jingjing, Qian Duoduo, Ou Lele, Wangabe, Bai Runding and others. He asked curiously, who is this fat man, how much have you drunk to dare to say such a thing? Li Chang'e looked like he was watching the excitement and didn't mind the trouble. He chuckled and said, it's not much. Before, we secretly mixed wine into the water he drank. In total, he only drank 5 or 6 kilograms of pure water. Yilin silently grabbed a handful of melon seeds from the table next to her and continued watching the show. Li Erpang burped from wine and continued, but one day, my wife turned into an egg. I thought my wife was gone. I have mixed emotions, happy and sad at the same time. Why are you staring? Do you think I don't dare to say anything? Hey, fatty, what do you not dare to say? Hiccup who doesn't know that in our Li family, men have always made the decision. When Li Erpang said these words, Li Kai took a sip of tea silently, looking at his nose, mouth, and mouth without saying a word. I was anxious at that time Li Erpang talked about his original mental journey in public, but I thought about it a lot countless times in the past, when I was in danger, who stood in the way? In front of me? It's Brother Su. When we were spawning monsters countless times, who fought side by side with Fatty? It was Brother Su. One time, we encountered something during a trial. We have all been poisoned. What a shame, we only found one antidote. I thought at that time, let Brother Su detoxify me. If I repay these kindnesses, I will die 100 times. Li Erpang was very angry. Pingdi pointed at the silent Su Zhiasu, but she was unreasonable and actually poured the antidote into my mouth. Another time, Li Erpang clapped his fingers again. I and Brother Su were chased by thousands of ghosts. Fat Lord, I kicked Brother Su off the city wall and let Brother Su run away first. Fat Lord, I bravely took the rear. I didn't expect Brother Su to kick a hole in the city wall and get in again. Grandma, You really don't want me to be a hero for once, do you? Countless guests below burst into laughter. Fat Master, I can no longer distinguish between love and debt. Li Erpang wiped his eyes and grinned. This expression is ugly, but sincere. When Brother Su turned into an egg, I made up my mind to die with her. There are already some sentimental girls below secretly wiping away tears. Some male apostles shouted, "You are not at a loss now." Among them, Xin Fei was the loudest. "Li Erpang, you are really punished. Cuffable man. Fat brother is awesome. True love, true love. Pregnant in situ." Listening to the commotion below, Li Erpang laughed and said, "Today, Fatty, I am getting married. Everyone knows that our life is like licking blood from a knife's edge, and we are precarious. So, Fatty, I am getting married today. It's unrealistic to talk about being together forever and ever. Fat Master, I only have one thing to say, verb. Just one thing. Suzayasu will live, I, Li Er, will live, Suzayasu will die, and I, Li Er, will die." Suzayasu's clenched fists finally loosened. Li Erpang was once reluctant and forced to hit the bases. But during this period of time, before Suzayasu transformed, Li Erpang untied the knot in his heart and saw through the world of mortals. Suzayasu also responded to Li Erpang's wish, which turned out to be a beautiful thing. Yilin smiled silently, carefully experiencing this rare joy and warmth. After the groom made his speech, when it came time to serve tea, Suje said with a straight face, "Are you sure you will be the one to make the decision from now on?" "Dad." Under the red hijab, Suzayasu said calmly in a baby voice, "I will work hard to make the decision." With that said, Suzayasu raised her fist. Li Erpang just had fun and served tea to Su's father. Suje generously returned a red envelope with a maximum of 500 DP stuffed inside. This was his last possession, almost all of it had been emptied out. The last stage is to throw the hydrangeas. Suzayasu held up the hydrangea, turned her back to the crowd, and prepared to throw it out. Although Li Erpang drank a lot, he was not drunk. He suddenly remembered that Suzayasu was no longer an ordinary human being, and quickly reminded in a low voice, "Daughter-in-law, take it easy, take it easy." But before Li Erpang finished reminding him, Suzayasu had already thrown the hydrangea specially made by Yilin and made of rare level prop cards into the sky. Call out. The hydrangea made a sound like a rocket taking off, took off in a straight line, and turned into a small dot that was difficult to identify with the naked eye in the sunset. "Huh? You haven't thrown the hydrangeas yet." Yilin was eating melon seeds when she suddenly remembered this and quickly stepped away. Thousands of people were inside and outside the wall, watching the live broadcast and staring at the sky. They wanted to wait for the hydrangea. Unexpectedly, after waiting for half a minute, the hydrangea was nowhere to be seen. It was probably that Suzayasu had thrown it outside the station, so they could only helplessly wait. Take the next step and start taking your seat. At Li Su's wedding banquet, there were 500 tables set up for the banquet alone, which was enough. The people present were all veterans. They sat down in their predetermined positions one by one. Some people were doing high jumps and some were swinging silk threads, each showing their special abilities. But before the banquet was full, Su Jingjing, who had the best eyes, suddenly pointed to the sky and said excitedly, "The hydrangea has fallen." Thousands of people gasped in unison. Let's not talk about the meaning of the hydrangea. It is said that there are dozens of rare equipments strung on this hydrangea. Who wouldn't grab it? Wouldn't it be stupid if you didn't grab it? Snored. Xin Fei had been waiting for a long time. He slapped his palms on the ground, stepped on a giant dragon made of clay, and rushed high into the sky to gain the upper hand in the air. Innocent. Wangaba smiled slightly and fired an air cannon in the direction of hydrangea without saying a word. Anyway, rare level props cannot be damaged before they are materialized, so he doesn't care so much anymore. Look at me. Qianduoduo raised his finger, and a huge 1-ton weight pressed the hydrangea to the ground. He, here comes the sword. A light smile appeared on Li Changa's lips. He had his hands behind his back and was wearing a suit without wind. He could see countless long swords flying back and forth in the air. For a while, the others couldn't tell whether the flying sword was real or fake. They were all frightened and quickly dodged. For a time, all the apostles in the sky above Hating City showed their abilities and frantically grabbed hydrangeas. The apostles, who had no ability to fight in the air, could only watch the lights and shadows in mid-air helplessly, with a few skills flying around, and they felt unspeakable pain in their hearts. Oda Mai was about to move in her seat. In fact, she also wanted to grab the hydrangea. But there is no mercy in her hands. Once the knife is drawn, it will either kill or injure, or break, or maim. Finally, Oda Mai sighed with a cold face and gave up the idea of fighting. But, I really want it? Crack. Pan Zhenji was giggling the whole time. The hydrangea shook for a long time in mid-air as if it was being passed around by drums, and finally landed in front of Lao Pan inexplicably. Xiao Chuer, who had been keeping an eye on Pan Zhenji even before the ball-grabbing session started, suddenly showed up. A piece of spider silk swung into the air, and then stuck out its buttocks. Many people were tied up in a piece of spider web. One of the spider silk slurped up the hydrangea and pulled it towards the corner where she was. I know I was gambling, but I was right. Do you know what it means to plan and then act? This is planning and then acting. This batch of rare equipment, I'll take this hydrangea. Deal. Oh my god. When Ning Yu saw that Xiao Chuer, whom he had longed for, had grabbed the hydrangea, he quickly activated his ability to cause the ground to collapse. Those who were about to take action immediately fell into the quagmire and could not move. There's actually an insider. We have a traitor. Damn it. Damn it. One leg, one leg. You've already helped me out like this, do you think it can be done with one leg? After saying that she was serious, but in fact she was not competing very seriously, Xiao Chuer used her special ability to stand out and win the hydrangea. But just as she grabbed the hydrangea with a smile, that special hydrangea with dozens of rare cards strung together exploded. A piece of red powder spread all over Xiao Chuer's face. Finally, after the chaos, thousands of people were finally able to eat. Their fight also avoided the wine table, and finally no one went through the wedding banquet hungry. Xiao Chuer's face was so red that she couldn't wipe it off, so she could only sit next to Ning Yu with this exaggerated makeup and eat a lot to vent her hatred. She didn't know that this hydrangea was specially made by President Yilin. She thought it was Li Erpang's prank and secretly made a note of it. Whenever she gets a chance in the future, she will definitely whisper in Suzayasu's ears that Fatty Li sent private messages to harass her, so that Suzayasu can beat the fat man to death. There were thousands of people in Tiankai Guild, half of them were drunk. Yilin hid aside, the most sober. He noticed that even the other guild's Zayazuo seemed to be having a lot of fun at today's wedding banquet, completely losing the appearance that Zayazuo should have. This batch of meticulous work is unprofessional. Yilin sighed, closed a magic book in a festive atmosphere, and returned to the Snow Mountain station. Walking in the snow, in the empty dormitory area, a beautiful figure, wearing a thin cotton coat, quietly stretched out her hand to the moon, as if feeling the coldness of the moonlight. Yilin was silent for a moment in the distance. Ling Yi, who was looking up at the sky, suddenly looked in the direction of Yilin, more than 20 meters away, and said with a smile, "Did you have fun?" I don't know if it was because of the cold in the winter area, but Yilin felt a faint chill in her heart. Happy? Yilin couldn't tell anything on the surface. She chuckled, walked forward, and stood side by side with Ling Yi. The atmosphere fell into silence. After Ling Yi asked, she continued to raise her head, squinted her eyes, and felt the dim light of the bright moon. How much can your eyes see now? Yulin had a gentle smile on her face, but behind Ling Yi, she shot like a knife and quickly cut into the back of Ling Yi's neck. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 795. Yulin is no longer an ordinary person at this moment. Even though he is on the spiritual side, his strength attribute exceeds that of many strength side newcomers. If this sword was actually used, Ling Yi, who was just an ordinary person and had not undergone any strengthening, would only end up with a fractured cervical vertebra. Ling Yi seemed unaware and smiled brightly. I don't know why, but recently I can see things more and more clearly. Even Meng Meng was surprised by the speed of my vision recovery. Yet, when Yulin's knife was only a few centimeters away from Ling Yi's fair neck, she suddenly stopped. There was an unspeakable pain in Yulin's eyes. He closed his eyes and took a few big gulps of the cold air. Then the movement of the knife turned into a gentle caress, touching Ling Yi's smooth hair. You've got snow in your hair. Thanks. The corners of Ling Yi's mouth curved into a nice smile. But for some reason, Yulin felt a little cold. Zioxi is right. Yes. He should know how much time he has left. But, why her? Who is she? In fact, he should have figured it out long ago. But when emotions were mixed into logical thinking, Yulin became unlike herself. Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm going back. Yulin left a harsh sentence, then immediately turned around, suppressing her emotions, and disappeared. In the snow, Ling Yi looked confused and said to herself, what happened to him? Past, present, future. Ling Yi, Yulin. Yulin sat alone in the secret room of the ice cave, thinking about everything she had experienced over the years. The story between him and Ling Yi is full of contradictions. However, he didn't feel it was against him before. Yulin just now was really determined to break Ling Yi's neck with a knife. At that moment, he hypnotized himself and regarded the Ling Yi in front of him as fake. However, his body seemed to recognize that Ling Yi was invulnerable and actively stopped subsequent actions. Then, Yulin understood. It's not that he thinks he can't hurt Ling Yi. But the matter of hurting Ling Yi itself was deleted from his cognition. Oh, that's it? It's true. Yulin reconnected every sentence, every word, and every obscure action that Riddle 11 had said. The ancients once said that when a puzzle eliminates all possibilities, the remaining one, no matter how outrageous or absurd, will be the only answer. I see. In the ice cave, Yulin raised his head indifferently, his eyes as cold as knives. Ling Yi is, the supervisor. The next day. Sun on the branches. Suzayasu got up early in the morning and served tea to Li Kai and Mrsli. What a daughter-in-law of the Li family. But Li Erpang remained motionless and couldn't even wake him up. If not for the thunderous snoring coming from the room, others might have mistakenly thought that the groom had died suddenly overnight. It seemed like he was exhausted last night. A large number of people were drunk at the Hating City station. Until after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. These drunkards woke up staggeringly, complaining of headaches. I drank too much last night, but luckily nothing embarrassing happened. Everything continues to follow the established trajectory. People at the Hating City garrison continue to prepare for the next trial. Members of the Snow Mountain Station returned home and immersed themselves in work. With Yulin's help, Molly settled her worries. She placed the photos of her parents on her desk. Inadvertently, she glanced at the drawing Yulin threw to her not long ago. Three-dimensional mobile device drawings. What the hell? This little gadget had been stuffed in the corner by Molly before. She was in a good mood at the moment. She opened it curiously and carefully considered the above-mentioned structure. How should I put it? It's quite an ancient thing. Molly quickly made a disdainful and pertinent comment on the drawing. This small device that allows people to move through the air with the help of jets was indeed quite exquisite in the last century. But looking at it from today's perspective, it seems a bit behind. Like here, if it were replaced by a crystal pattern array and driven by crystal energy, it would be a bit interesting. Molly didn't seem to realize that she was originally a good scientific worker, but after receiving the influence of Yilin's otherworldly disciplines, her thinking mode gradually changed subtly. Oops, but as Molly looked at that outdated installation drawing, it seemed to trigger some inspiration in her. She felt that she should add a little mechanism to Unit 0. Molly crumpled the three-dimensional mobile device drawing again into a ball and threw it aside. She has absorbed the essence of the drawings. The remaining dross is thrown into the corner. Molly got back to work. The components of Unit 0 are being built on the assembly line. She polishes it herself to ensure the quality of every component. It took half a month, almost without sleep, and working day and night, before Molly finally put together the Unit 0 that she had longed for. 2122. November 25th. Molly called everyone to the front of the workshop. Yilin counted the time it took Molly to build Unit 0 on her fingers. It was indeed quite a long time. It took so long that Yilin almost forgot about this. More than 200 people gathered in front of the workshop to eat melon. In fact, they are also looking forward to seeing the finished product. Especially the female members of the guild. They have long heard that Molly's Unit 0 is tailor-made for women, so they pay special attention to it. You guys wait a minute, I'll show it to you. Molly seemed confident in her work. In her words, she was neither low-key nor modest. She boldly used the word show. The implication seems to be that once my work is unveiled, it will definitely show off your faces. Molly hurried into the workshop. There was a clanking sound of iron coming from inside. About 10 minutes later. Click, 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 click. The fully automatic door of the workshop opened, and a snow-white armor with a streamlined body walked out of the workshop awkwardly. For a moment, there was silence outside the workshop. Everyone's eyes were attracted by the design of the armor. The man wearing the armor has an awkward gait, but the armor doesn't look clumsy at all. Each armor part is made of thin and dense alloy armor pieces, connected at the joints through nanomaterials and spliced together. The overall design idea of the armor is very close to the humanoid self-propelled weapons in many science fiction works. On the surface of the armor, chaotic lines are densely covered on the surface of the armor. From a distance, these lines, which are channels for the flow of crystal energy, are like armor patterns, adding a bit of mystery to the Unit 0 trial model, the atmosphere of science fiction. The convergence point of all the lines is on the armor's chest. The chest of the armor is inlaid with 9 perfect level crystals, and the 9 perfect level crystals are distributed in concentric circles. After Molly activated the armor, it seemed as if a high-power LED light was installed on her chest, which flashed and dazzled. The head of the armor adopts a full coverage design, with long and narrow lenses for the eyes, and the lenses also shine brightly. On the head, a snow-white horn is also designed. I don't know if it is just for beauty, or if it has other unique functions. Yilin is an officially certified great engineer. In this world, no one knows crystal patterns better than him. Everyone else saw the excitement, but Yilin saw a lot of things. Through the lines, nodes, and core distribution on the surface of the 0 unit's armor, he could see almost the inside and outside design of the 0 unit thoroughly. After a moment, Yilin sighed, he is truly a genius. As a pure ordinary person, a human being who has not undergone any enhancement, under Yilin's guidance, Molly has gained such a theoretical knowledge of the crystal pattern technique in a short period of time, this has already made Yulin feel amazing. In fact, Yulin gave a lot of opinions on the design of the crystal pattern technique of Unit 0. In the final product, Molly actually added a lot of her own ideas. What amazed Yulin the most was the horn. Unexpectedly, Molly had a Chuyuni soul hidden in her serious bones, and incorporated such an exaggerated design into it. At this time, people who had expressed their feelings about the beautiful armor began to make different voices. Some girls felt worried and whispered to themselves, "Is this specially made for women? The chest is a bit flat and I feel like I can't wear it. I can't seem to fit it in either. I see, it's probably difficult to squeeze in. I am 36D, I feel like I will be crushed into 2 pieces. Mine is 36F, Weevu," a tall and plump female mechanic cried. For the first time in her life, she had a strong longing for a pair of A's. There was a lot of discussion among the girls' group. Molly's prototype of Unit 0 seemed to have enhanced her hearing, and when she heard it, she immediately became angry. Drip, 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 drip. On Unit 0, all the lines lit up crazily. The entire mecha was shrouded in a soft white light. Shut up. Molly's voice was resynthesized through the sound-producing components on the armor and reached everyone's ears. Who can wear it and who can't wear it, am I not clear in my heart? Combat power, what I pursue is the combat power of the armor. Oh. You don't believe it, right? Molly was angry, and a halo appeared under the feet of Unit 0. 2 spikes popped out from the heels, making Molly, who was wearing Unit 0 prototype, even 10 centimeters taller out of thin air. The 2 spikes on the heels were shining brightly. At first glance, you can tell that it is not an ordinary sparse thing. Who among you dares to fight? Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 796. Provocative. Is this a provocation? In front of the workshop, there was an eerie silence. Everyone agreed in unison, and more than 200 eyes focused on Yulin's face. Yulin felt the strange looks from the others and immediately couldn't laugh or cry. You just hit me? What are you looking at me for? Yulin's words made everyone roll their eyes involuntarily. Who is Molly? Others don't know, but you don't know it yourself? If you, the president, don't open your mouth, who among us would dare to step in? If you are provoked, you can only hold it in. Yulin was vaguely aware of other people's thoughts. He didn't speak, and the others were embarrassed. Molly drove Unit 0 arrogantly, stretched out her hand, and raised her index finger at the 200 people. You guys, come here. Ahem. In fact, Yulin also wanted to see how Unit 0 performed in actual combat. After all, so much effort was put into making this thing. Neither Yulin nor Molly wanted it to end up being just a vase. So Yulin coughed twice and pointed at Li Chang'e, whose combat effectiveness was almost 0 under normal conditions. You go. Grass. When Li Chang'e saw Yulin pointing at him, his eyes widened and he groaned secretly. But in desperation, he still smiled faintly, put his hands behind his back, and stood out from the crowd with his hair blowing in the breeze. In that case. Before Li Chang'e could gather his emotions and finish his lengthy opening remarks, Molly raised her hand and fired at Li Chang'e without speaking of martial ethics. Li Chang'e was so frightened that he rolled on the spot and just dodged the shot. Where Li Chang'e originally stood, a steaming ravine, with the surrounding ice and snow melting, cut through the crowd for more than 10 meters. Hiss. Hummed. This is a laser cannon. Ridiculous. Sorry, I forgot to adjust the power. The weapons on Unit 0 are set to the maximum power by default under the AI preset. Molly almost broke Li Chang'e into 2 pieces when she saw the cannon. She felt sorry in her heart and quickly adjusted the power. Squeeze it a little, don't kill anyone. Interesting. Li Chang'e didn't know whether he was pretending to be cool or if he was really interested. His face was solemn and he casually brushed off the snow on his body while rolling on the ground. Then let me, Li Chang'e, find out more about you. Li Chang'e took a step forward. A ray of red glow fell from the sky. Step 2. The shadow of a golden dragon, majestic and powerful, pressed down on the sky, hovering around Li Chang'e. Third step. Next to Li Chang'e, space collapsed and thunder flashed. The fourth step. Li Chang'e completed all the preparations, pointed his finger in the sky, and an ancient sword appeared out of thin air. The tip of the sword was pointed at Mali's Unit 0. Li Chang'e rarely shows off his strength in the station, and most people don't know much about Li Chang'e's depth. But when Li Chang'e made such a silent move, he was so loud that he scared many people who didn't know the details. This light, golden dragon, and thunder are so powerful that people can't bear to look directly at them. Awesome! In the crowd, some people applauded wildly and called for Li Chang'e. And Su Jingjing, who had a lot of experience in teaming up with Li Chang'e, already knew Li Chang'e's strengths and weaknesses, and immediately smiled disdainfully, pretentious. Li Chang'e became serious. But not too seriously. Long swords filled the sky, forming an unknown self-created sword formation, and swept towards Unit 0 with a clatter. The wind was blowing everywhere, blowing the wind and snow. His special effects are so realistic that people can't tell the difference between real and fake. Oh! Yulin looked at Li Chang'e's movements and his eyes narrowed slightly. Others might not be able to see it, but Yulin could. Unexpectedly, Li Chang'e quietly developed new tricks for Rhapsody. Among these thousands of flying swords, there are actually a few swords with real lethality. True and false, false and true. It seems that Li Chang'e has gradually found his own path. Inside Unit 0. Although Mali sounded arrogant, she was still quite nervous in her heart. With the assistance of AI, she began to analyze Li Chang'e's behavioral patterns. She was not confused by Li Chang'e's special effects, because under the AI's view, all the special effects were faded by filters, leaving only a few pitiful flying swords, twisting and turning, ridiculous. Laugh. Under the feet and behind Unit 0, the armor plate opened, and bursts of blue fireworks poured out from the jets. With the power of the jet, Mali piloted Unit 0 to glide at low altitude. During the gliding process, Mali used the reduced power palm cannon to lock onto Li Chang'e, who was showing off in the snow, and laughed, "Don't underestimate my Unit 0. Unit 0's palms glowed with light, aiming straight at Li Chang'e. Li Chang'e, who was showing off, was suddenly startled. The next second, the crazy laser completely overwhelmed the king. Mali was in the air, taking advantage of the air. She bombarded Li Chang'e's position for half a minute before the fire stopped. Li Chang'e, who was covered in black smoke, was dragged out and sent to the infirmary. After seeing Li Chang'e's tragic situation, everyone subconsciously took a sip from the cold wind and snow. Even though Li Chang'e didn't kill him for Yulin's sake, the firepower of Unit 0 was a bit fierce. Yulin was quite satisfied with Li Chang'e's failure, whether from Mali's point of view or from her own point of view. From this, it can be seen that Unit 0 already has practical significance. Of course, Li Chang'e has no trump card. His ability is not suitable for fighting a civil war. Just being able to beat Li Chang'e like this is enough to explain the problem. In terms of pure output firepower, Unit 0 passed the test. Yulin knew that Mali's move included collecting data from Unit 0. So in order to cooperate, Yulin said loudly, "Who else wants to give it a try? Come forward." Tap tap tap. More than 200 people neatly took a step back. These people are all very smart. From Li Chang'e's fate, they finally understood. This is completely thankless. If you really want to be cruel, if you hurt Mali, you will be retaliated by the president in the end. Don't be cruel, Li Chang'e is a typical negative teaching material: stand up and act cool, lie down and leave. After everyone took a step back, only the last one who didn't take a step back seemed to be standing forward. When Yi Lin looked at the remaining person, a drop of cold sweat suddenly fell from his temples. Damn it, why is Xiao Wu left? Oda Mai looked back at the others and knew that she had been betrayed. But she didn't care. She simply touched the knife at her waist and walked towards Molly, who was moaning in mid-air. Oda Mai's strength, her ruthlessness and her dominance are obvious to all. To this day, Oda Mai still has many nicknames among members privately, such as Valkyrie, Big Sister, Cold-Faced Sword Demon, Destroying Flower Guest, and so on. Once she uses the knife, none of her relatives will recognize her, and even the president will be chopped down. Who in the guild station doesn't know about this matter? Therefore, when more than 200 people took a step back and shouted out Oda Mai instead, they all regretted it. It seemed like things were getting serious. Oda Mai raised her head, her eyes calm, and walked towards Molly. She put a hand on her waist, and the knife was not out of its sheath, but everyone could clearly see the direction of the scabbard and heard bursts of high-pitched clanging sounds. Her knife was trembling. Her knife was excited. Oda Mai is on fire. Molly was wearing the number 0 machine armor and had just bombed Li Chang'e, and she was feeling nervous. At this moment, when she saw Oda Mai coming out, she was stunned for a moment, but she didn't understand the seriousness of the matter. She raised her hands, lit up the aperture behind her, opened up the firepower, and fired all the cannons. On the snow, Mai Oda maintained her stance of holding a knife with one hand and dodged flexibly in the dazzling gunfire. Unlike Li Chang'e, who was overwhelmed by artillery fire when he faced her, Oda Mai easily dodged the light cannon and seemed to be able to do so with ease. In the blink of an eye, Mai Oda flicked her wrist, activated the wire worm, and jumped into the air. Cut it with the back of the knife. Oda Mai closed her eyes, her body filled with black energy, and she murmured in a low voice. The guild members who were watching Oda Mai and Unit 0 flying into the air, inexplicably flashed a word in their minds: Shura Field. Molly was dumbfounded. The field of vision in front of her was red. The tactical assistant's AI didn't know what it had detected and frantically called the police. Warn. High energy ahead. Warn. High energy ahead. Warn. High energy ahead. Fight. Molly didn't care whether the front was high-powered or not. In a panic, she prepared to use her ultimate move. The single horn of Unit 0 suddenly lit up with a terrifying incandescent light. Crackling. In the air, there was a faint sound of thunder exploding around Unit 0. Oda Mai was unmoved. But just when the two were about to come into contact, the bright horn of Unit 0 suddenly dimmed, and the texture on the surface of Unit 0's body flickered for a few times before dimming. Unit 0 was like a remote control aircraft that lost power, plummeting straight down from the sky.